Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. So it's an interesting day in the news. Epstein files seem to be all the rant and rave. And, you know, I know there was some kind of bill before where I think it was only 5 Republicans that crossed over to say release it, you know, Congress releasing. But I think there's a game afoot here.
Well, I think they're trying to tie, enemies of Trump are trying to tie him to the Epstein case no matter what. I'll give you an example. They had a young lady, they had a rally yesterday in D.C. You probably saw it, Bill. Mm-hmm. And one of the survivors of Epstein's whole horror show addressed the crowd. Her name was Sean T. Davies. And she revealed on Wednesday during a press conference that she once traveled to Africa with
Bill Clinton,
with Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton while being abused and manipulated by Epstein. And she also said that that in the course of conversation, she said that Epstein bragged about being close friends with Donald Trump. But she never saw Trump. Apparently, and the group of survivors, there were a bunch of people there who were on this when they were in a studio setting and they were being interviewed. I'm not sure what show, but it was one of the networks. They were asked, well, you know, and the press loves to do this, folks. Well, did you ever see Donald Trump? Was Donald Trump ever involved with any of your liaisons? And they all shook their head no, much to the disappointment of the interviewer, by the way. Much to the disappointment. But anyway, the Sean T. Davies, her statement, you know, she got up there in front of the crowd, and, well, I'll play it for you. Listen.
Yeah. My name is Shantae Davies, and I'm here before you today as a survivor of decades of pain, trauma, and betrayal at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and the people who enabled them, and a government that for far too long refused to help. In 2002, I was living in California, a young woman with high aspirations of becoming an actress. I was already beginning to make a name for myself in the industry. A person I trusted, someone I thought was a friend, invited me to meet a powerful woman who could help advance my career. That woman happened to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I was asked to give her a massage, though I had almost no experience, and when I did, she praised me and promised introductions to someone enormously powerful, someone who could change the course of my life, and that man was Jeffrey Epstein. At first, I was an excited young woman on top of the world. Epstein flew me to his private island. He listened to my dreams, promised to help, but his promises came with a catch. The abuse began. He told me to keep it secret. He manipulated me with quid pro quo I did not consent to, but I felt I had no one to turn to. He was too powerful. I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would protect me? Epstein himself was the most powerful leader of our country. Epstein surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world. He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually. And while what I endured will haunt me forever, I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again. There are files, government files, that hold the truth about Epstein, who he knew, who owed him, who protected him, and why he was allowed to operate for so long without consequence. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable when so many others played a role? Why does the government hide this information from the public? This secrecy is not protection, it's complicity. And as long as the truth is buried, justice will remain out of reach. That is why this bill matters. Passing it will bless you. Ensure that the suffering of survivors is not in vain. Passing it will bring accountability, transparency, and prevention. It will help protect the next generation of predators who seek to place themselves above the law through wealth, influence, and connections. This is not just my story. It is about every survivor who carries invisible scars. It's about the weight we live with daily. It is about the families broken and the futures stolen. So I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth. We cannot heal without justice. We cannot protect the future if we refuse to confront the past. Thank you.
Let me tell you something. There are some people, Bill, who are going to say,
oh, I know where they're going to go with this.
Well, they're going to say, well, she was an adult. She was out in Hollywood already working. She was making a name for herself. She should have known better. You know, people go to Hollywood, especially young women go to Hollywood with a dream. It's a dream, okay? They envision something magical, almost storybook. They go out there, and they still have that dream. And these pariah, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, they prey upon that. That's what they do. Now, should she have known better? Look it. She had a childhood dream. She was living in a childhood fantasy. She may have had a body of a young woman. Maybe she should have been a little more aware of what was going on, but people were dangling stuff in front of her. Stardom, fame.
What year do you think that was?
2002 is when she said.
Okay, 2002. So we did kind of have internet stuff going on then, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And you did a movie.
Yeah.
You know, but times were, you know, I'm not going to say they were innocent, but they were more in the shadows of what happened, because I know when I was young, and we can say it because, you know, whether you're male or female, there are purveyors of evil.
Yes.
That go both sides of the
Well,
fence.
you heard of the casting couch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember that there was a job I wanted in L.A., and, you know, and I had dreams of wanting to be an actor, you know, and right away, you know, young guy, fresh meat, they're sitting there going, we'd like to get you out here. We need some photos. And that triggered me right there. I didn't have an internet to go to sit there and say, let me do some research, you know, to really find out. You didn't have any sources. You know anything about these people? No, I don't. So my instinction was stay away, you know, and I did. And but I've heard tell of
you know,
people that didn't, and I'm going like, I'm glad
I lived to a certain extent with that dream. Now I was more grounded because I was married, and I would have floated away in that dream, by the way, if I didn't have somebody who was grounded and constantly reminding that I had responsibilities, you know. But so I can understand how a young woman who goes out there and she's alone, and that's the other thing. She goes to Hollywood. Usually they go out by themselves, and they meet a whole bunch of strangers, people that they end up trusting. She trusted Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell said, I know somebody who can make your career happen. His name is Jeffrey Epstein. You know, and the other thing is this. When she was talking and said she went down to his island, I thought, you know, what a thing. You literally trap your victim on a place that you own and secure. They can't escape. They can't swim to another island, although I think one or two of them tried to. Seriously, one or two of the women who were down on the island.
Sharks are out there. Forget about that. Your shark bait.
Well, they fortunately they swam back. They couldn't make it, but he was the consummate pariah, and these people, they were young adults. You would think they would have been a little more mature and more responsible. They're also living a dream that it's hard to give up on. I mean, when you talked about the film that I did, right? I literally dropped everything and got in my car and drove 3 or 4 hours to Martha's Vineyard just to maybe possibly get something in the film. And I got something, but I mean, I was 20 at the time. I was about 25 years old. And you would have think that, all right, enough of this dreaming stuff. You got things to do, but it's a tough dream to give up on. So I'm not going to criticize that young woman for, hoping and praying that maybe Jeffrey Epstein was going to make her career happen. Did she? I mentioned the casting couch a few minutes ago. That's a notorious story about how producers in Hollywood would prey on young, unsuspecting women. You want to be in my movie? I can give you a good part. You want a talking part in this film? I can make you a star. You can go from being background to being a principal photography. I can do that, but it comes with certain strings attached, and that's how these creeps work. And by the way, don't think for 1 second that disappeared with the golden age of Hollywood. It still happens. It still happens to this day. What was it? Harvey Weinstein, right? I mean, and, he was doing it, and he was producing some of the biggest movies of the late 20th and early 21st century. I mean, this guy was, you heard of the Weinstein Company? That's what Miramax, they own that. I mean, this guy was producing major motion pictures, and he was abusing his power. And believe me, there are people doing it now, Bill, in Hollywood. They're doing it to this day.
Yeah, well, but there are people that don't understand. I would never do that. You got to be cray-cray in the mind. And I'm sitting there going, have you ever bought a lottery ticket?
Yeah, last night.
Most people have. Yeah, last night. Because why? $1.4 billion on the line, which nobody won. So
I know.
I'll
be going out there today. Yes.
Yeah, you'll be going out buying another ticket. And I sit there and wonder, well, it's not computer generated, the number, but is there a way they can maybe not have all the balls in there and say these numbers aren't going to come up for sure, to where they could sit there and manipulate the masses.
Yeah.
You see, I don't know, but you're drawn into something too.
Well, do you remember?
It's that chance of a lifetime.
Do you remember in Pittsburgh back in the 80s? There was a big lottery scandal. They used to do the lottery drawings at radio. TV stations would actually bid on the drawings in their state, and a Pittsburgh TV station, I won't mention the call letters, they won the bidding, and they were doing the lottery drawings in the studio at this TV station. And I guess the guy who was doing the drawing, and I'm not going to mention his name either, although I think he's passed, he figured out a way to make a number come up. He injected into these ping pong balls, that's what they use. They would put a number on a ping pong ball and then put them in these machines and the ball would pop to the top. And the next one is this. He weighted them down with white paint. He injected a little white paint into the ball to give them some weight
off.
So he could guarantee a number. You'll never guess the number he guaranteed. 666. I mean, you couldn't plan. It's like the mark of the devil. Anyway, this guy picked 666. He won. He didn't say it on the air, but he or somebody he knew, they won. It was a fixed deal, and he got caught. And not only did he go to jail, but the TV station lost, I guess, the rights to do the lottery, at least for a while. And I guess they changed the whole process. I guess now they have a dedicated studio, and there's more controls on the drawing than they used to have. But that was a big deal. The fixed lottery in Pittsburgh.
Everybody has a dream of what was that guy? Caviar, this and that. Either way,
you're talking about Robin Leach. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Yes,
and you want to be one of those, the rich and famous. Everybody wants to do that. So the
champagne
allure of that
bubbles
is out there.
And yes, sir.
The caviar wishes.
Yes,
I don't like caviar, so
neither
I have
do
no
I.
wishes for
Fish
caviar.
eggs.
But either way, that sounds nasty to me. But that's the dream. Everybody has that dream, to get rich quick. The and there is a process to getting rich, which I don't practice, but obviously, uh, but it's not. There are people that have won. But there are far and few between.
Well, the other thing is this: what would I do with $1.7 billion? I mean, come on, that's what the jackpot supposedly is tonight. $1.7 billion. I mean, come on. I might even.
I thought Saturday is it.
Yeah, but yeah, the drawing isn't tonight. It's on the weekend, but I'm going to buy the tickets today. You got to have a dream. You have to have a dream. And I do think that I would do good things with the money if I were to win. I would help some charities out. I'd help me out. I'd help my family out. Help my friends out. I mean, when you have that kind of money, that's kind of goofy money. Let's think about this for a second. $1.7 billion. The cash value on that probably is $1 billion. When you get up into those figures, the cash value maybe $900 million. Okay, then you have to pay what, 35, 40%? So let's say 40%. So you have to pay $400 million in taxes. No big deal. You still end up with like between $500 and $600 million cash. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't need all that money. I mean, there are limits to my needs. 600.
Well, let me ask you a question. Since we're off
we're dreaming
topic here, we're dreaming.
Yes.
But one of the, because I always said, darn, $1.7 billion. Oh, I got to pay taxes on it?
Yeah.
What if they sit there and say, you know what, you're paying $5 a ticket right now, or whatever it is you're paying a ticket.
It's $2.
We're going to double the cost of the ticket, but it is a no tax pay lottery. So in other words, whatever you win,
you win. Gosh. Oh my gosh. If you actually walked away with 1.7 tax free.
$1.7 billion tax free, and you don't have to pay any taxes in the year that you got it. You'll pay taxes on the interest you made in the following year.
I mean, that's goofy, I mean, I really believe this.
Winning $1 billion is goofy, and that would have been unheard of 10, 15 years ago.
I know. And the thing is, it comes with a lot of baggage, big time. You may think, oh, I would love to have that problem, but when you have that much money, all of a sudden you have security issues because there are people who are going to want to take it from you. All of a sudden, you really can't live in your old home anymore, in the old neighborhood with your old friends because you're that guy who won all that money, And it's like having big neon arrows on your front lawn saying, "The rich guy lives here." You truly can't live that lifestyle anymore. You do have to find a secure place. You got to hire a security team to watch out for your family. Your family and friends become targets for unscrupulous people. You've seen the movies. I'm sure you have. So all of a sudden, your life goes through a massive change. And not always a pleasant change. I mean, if you like your privacy, if you like to be able to go for long walks in the woods, or if you like to go on the bike trail with your favorite person, you can't do that alone anymore. Not when you're worth $1 billion. And you're going to have people with guns walking with you. Your whole life changes.
I don't think there's been many happy stories about big winners. You get the money, you don't know what to do with it. You have so many friends that show up that you never knew you had. You make bad decisions. There's a litany of things that go on. It's almost a curse. I'd love to experience the curse, but in my mind, I could handle it. But then, in reality, maybe not. You never know.
Yeah, well, I don't think, Bill, and I'm just making I'm going out on a limb here. I don't think you and I have to worry about that problem for a while. I'd like to think of my purchasing the tickets as a donation to senior citizens, because I think in Pennsylvania...
donation to our future.
Yes.
Because we're not there yet.
Yes, exactly. Of course. Oh, my gosh. You see where President Trump is unveiling plans to change the Department of Defense back to the War Department. Actually,
that's what it originally was.
I think it was initially called the War Office. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, Trump said, hey, we're these people, their job is to make sure that if we go to war, we win.
Yeah, break things and blow things up.
Yep. And the Defense Department, that was a goody, almost a pre-woke change in the name. It's, we'll be more kinder and gentler, We won't sound
Don't mess with us.
Yes, exactly.
We have guns. Yes, we do.
Exactly. So I guess he's going to, he and Pete Hegseth are working the details on. But, he's going to run into obstacles. Everything President Trump does, some judge somewhere says you can't do it. At what point is the Supreme Court going to step up and say, enough, you lower court, stay in your lane? But,
well, it's like his tariffs, He sat there and did all these tariffs,
yep.
which he had the authority to do, but you got judges going, no, can't do it because I say so.
That's true.
So he's got to appeal at a higher, and I'm like,
some little dweeb judge
then
somewhere.
Why do we even have a president?
Yep, some little dweeb judge somewhere who you never heard of, I never heard of, issues a ruling saying it's uncalled for.
So we do follow the rule of the king and queen.
Yeah.
Who are they? I'd like to meet them. Who are they really?
They really are these little dweeb judges. That's what they are. Although, trust me, friends, they are working for another cause. We're speaking of judges here, and I'm not going to, I was going to do a commercial break, but we'll wait until after this. CBS interviewed 3 judges who were fired. They were immigration court judges. Not terribly, these weren't high-level judges, but I want you to hear their attitude. They were let go because they literally were allowing everybody who stepped in front of their bench to stay in this country. These were you were an illegal immigrant. You went in front of these judges. It was like it was a fait accompli. It was, oh yeah, you can stay. But I want you to hear their supercilious, arrogant attitude. Listen.
Now to the president's crackdown on illegal immigration. At the same time, he is deporting undocumented migrants. About 100 immigration judges have been fired or transferred, or they've resigned.
In July alone, 20 judges have been let go. We talked to 3 of them about how it went down.
It was arbitrary, unfair, and it's an attack on the rule of law. It's an attack on judges.
George Pappas, Jennifer Payton, and Carla Espinoza were all fired this month by email. They'd been federal immigration judges who together ruled on thousands of cases in Chicago and Boston. Did they give you a reason why in your email?
My email was 3 sentences. I had no cause. I had no explanation.
We as judges were in fear. We were concerned, and that makes it very difficult to be impartial. We were not succumbing to that pressure, but it does feel like pressure.
Were you ever told how to rule?
Yes.
What'd they say?
They told me, grant the motions to dismiss. This is when ICE was roaming the courthouses, because if we dismiss the case, that person that responded then leaves the court vulnerable to immediate apprehension and expedited removal.
Just so people understand, you grant a motion to dismiss the case.
Correct.
Now the individual what?
They are no longer in proceedings.
Once they left the courtroom, more often than not, they will be handcuffed and led away by the ICE officers.
Take a step, back up. CBS News has reported on the numerous cases where ICE agents detained immigrants as they exited their court hearings. With about 600 immigration judges left, courts now face a backlog of nearly 4 million cases. President Trump says it could take 200 years to resolve all these cases.
It is my opinion that this administration could give a hoot about the backlog.
The administration says repeatedly, these folks are here illegally. That's breaking the law. They got to go. Do they have a point?
Well, that's why they're in proceedings in court. There is law that we're applying, and they might have to go. They might not.
What's at stake here?
It's really the future of our country. If the funding is going to enforcement and there's no justice left, that shows that our country is no longer embracing the need for due process and for justice.
That's a big statement. The future of the country is at stake here. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. If you're attacking the very judges that adjudicate cases, there's not going to be a rule of law. That should concern everybody, not just immigrants, but U.S. citizens.
Today is them, is immigrants. What about tomorrow? Who's going to get due process denied next?
We reached out to the Justice Department. It declined to comment on the firings, but said the Trump administration is, quote, vigorously enforcing our nation's immigration laws.
You know, first of all, that was a hit piece, pure and simple. You sit down with 3 disgruntled judges who were fired, all right? I can tell you that in my experience, if in broadcasting you let go a talent on the air and then sit him down for an interview, he's not going to say a lot of nice things about the place he just left. These people, what they are not telling you in this piece is who hired them? Who hired these judges? Was it Biden? Was it Obama? And believe me, they have marching orders. They have marching orders from the people who hired them. Don't think for one second that these are truly judicial, legal, dedicated people. These are. You can hear it in the responses they give. It's amazing. But go ahead.
I'll simplify. He said, we don't have rule of law, and that sounds fine and dandy. But lawyers, or these judges, they do answer to the people they're indebted to. And I always thought, rule of law, that's fine, but it's the rule of the people. It's the will of the people. And the judges are there at the behest of the people, the will of the people. So if these judges aren't working for the people, who are they working for?
Exactly. Well, there are a lot of them that are working for the left, and they have an agenda.
Who put them in there? Yeah, they're because that's who butters their bread. Trump is sitting there going, well, okay, if we're going to do it that way, you're fired because you're not doing, I was put in to do a job, the will of the people. You're not doing that job. Get out of here.
Yes. Well, that's not how they work.
No, I don't know that.
They think it's a lifetime appointment. They were appointed, they can be removed. I think they're literally, they have the job at the will of the president, actually.
Yeah, you're an employee at will,
yes.
Which means that your services are no longer needed here. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. And but they see it different.
No.
And that's where we have a big problem.
Well, they're gone. And by the way, there was an article the day before yesterday where Pete Hegseth just he took, I think it was like 100 or 150 Defense Department attorneys and made them temporary immigration judges to help move this backlog of immigrants. You have to send them through. See, this is the problem. The problem is they allowed him in with no any kind of screening.
Vetting.
No vetting. So they allowed all these people in the country, and they just walked across. But if you send them back, based upon our laws, you have to go through an immigration judge.
Well, you know what? If we send them back, all right? If we just say the judges don't stop them from going back, doesn't that get rid of our backlog?
Well, with these judges that have been made temporary judges, they're going to crank them out, whether you like it or not. And by the way, there should be one question asked during these proceedings. I don't want to hear about your family. I don't want to hear about why you're here. One question. Are you here legally? If you're not...
they're not going to answer that yes or no.
Did you come across legally? Were you invited into this country? Did you go through the process? Does the country know you're here? I mean, I'm sorry. My ancestors, they were immigrants. Bill's ancestors were immigrants. Mm-hmm. There was a process even back then that they had to go through.
Yeah. Well, I got to wonder, were you invited here? Biden opened those doors. So how did they get word? So in a roundabout way, they probably were invited backhandedly, but invited to come on in, and there were no guardrails when they came in.
Well, if you open the door to your house, does it mean you can have someone break in? If you open the door, technically, and just leave it open.
They're not broken in, and if it's open, then it's open.
But does it mean someone can come into your house and steal it? Does it make them going into your house and stealing your stuff legal just because the door was open? It's your property.
Right.
You should be allowed to open the door to your house. It doesn't mean that a stranger can walk in and steal it.
Well, that's true, but they're going to argue it so many different ways. I'm just for saying, you know what? We opened up those borders for whatever reason. It's time for you to go. See ya. Bye-bye.
And speaking of see you, bye-bye, it's time to take a little commercial break, my friend, because we're a little late here. Like and share our show with your friends. Tell your friends about our program if you would. That's how we grow the show. Also, if you want to contact us, it's mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. You see where CNN's pushing the conspiracy theory popular amongst leftists that President Trump is going to cancel elections? You see that?
Yeah, they're doing all these scare tactics. And you've got them pushing that. Joy Reid's still out there pushing, he wasn't shot. That was all theater. But I'm hearing all these lies from the left. I don't have any of the memes pulled up right now, but there's so many of them out there that are just...
Bill, you mentioned Joy Reid?
Yeah.
Listen.
He's got these magical doctors who claim that he was shot in the ear, but his ear, I guess, grew back. He had a Duplo bandage on 1 minute, no bandage the next. We can't get a medical record from this alleged assassination. He was supposedly shot. We have nothing. We've got nothing.
Where's the investigative? Where are the investigative records? One day he slapped his maxi pad on his ear. The next day the ear is totally fine.
It's fine. And I remember being in mainstream media where we both used to work, saying, "Isn't it odd that we've never asked for his medical records?" And I got in trouble for that. Right? So you're not allowed to even say, isn't that weird? We have more records. I know more about the attempted Ford assassination, President Ford, than I do about Donald Trump. And the Gerald Ford thing happened when I was a child, right? And they put out more information almost immediately. We know almost immediately almost everything about Kennedy's assassination. I know more about McKinley's assassination than I do about this attempt to assassinate Trump when he was a presidential candidate. We're getting nothing. And the mainstream media isn't demanding his medical records. They're not demanding anything. They're terrified of this man. And now that the people are speculating that he might have died, we only get that online. But mainstream media is acting like everything's fine. He seems fine to me.
You know, she's a nut, okay? I'm sorry. There's no other way of putting it.
Well, it almost sounded like she's saying he did die. We get that he's okay. What are you saying, Joy?
She laughed when she talked about, and now we hear he almost died. Like,
oh yeah, she'd love that.
Yeah, she's a wacko. The other one she was having a conversation with, Katie Phang, Phang. I never heard of her. Maybe she's somebody on one of the other networks because I don't watch those other networks because they just don't offer anything that's truthful. She was talked about a maxi pad. Do anything to minimize, the fact that he had a bandage on his ear that was big enough to cover the wound. Your ears are a fairly big thing. He had to have something which was covering it. She called it a maxi pad. He didn't have a maxi pad on his ear. For God's sake.
Well, maybe she needs a maxi pad in her mouth because it's bleeding lies. And I'm tired of this whole left thing. I'm tired of Joy Reid. She got fired, and she's going to destroy something that we have. Now, I'm not an expert on a lot of things, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert on everything here, but we put the caveats in there that this is our opinion. She goes in that what she knows everything, and it's de facto truth, and there are no guardrails on the internet. People like her are going to spoil your opportunity to get real truth,
Bill,
and to have the chance to have your objectivity and filter through and say, no, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't. But she's going to destroy. People like her are going to destroy.
They are muddying the water. They really are.
Yeah.
They're muddying the water. We need some people to be held accountable for what they've done, and it had better come soon because there are a lot of people on President Trump's side who are running out of patience. We're being promised by people like Pam Bondi over and over again that we're reviewing the information, and my God, how long does it take for you to make a decision?
If they don't make a decision soon, then, and this is actually a warning to Trump. It's going to make you the guilty guy and look bad. And
I agree.
If they use it to get into power, and they could do it, then it's over. It is over. And, the blind squirrel gets a nut, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, you've got to, if you're listening, sir, you've got to make a decision, and you got to get some results, PD quick, because people like yours truly and others that I know out here in the hinterlands, we're giving you the time that you've asked for, I mean, in your administration, but I mean, enough already. It's time. Look, we've seen the evidence. It was released to the public. We saw Tulsi Gabbard get up and explain all the different things that they found. How much do you need to indict some of these creeps? I truly believe, Bill, it's political. I believe it's political.
There's a lot of politics going on, but, you go to a restaurant and you go, oh, I want to get their, broccoli cheese soup. And looks good, smells good. You know what? I really didn't get any broccoli in there, and the cheese is kind of thin. And we're getting diluted soup, is what we're getting. We're getting the dish that we're served is not what it looks like on the menu, and we better start getting some substance. Otherwise, it's not going to look good. And there's reason probably why we're not getting substance. Protections there. Maybe we're sitting there waiting for things to fleece out. Obviously, the lady there that was a victim said, well, yeah, Epstein bragged that Trump, Epstein would use, if you were a millionaire at the time, oh, yeah, well, I'm good friends with Jim Harrington, he's on CBS in New York, and he's got millions of dollars, and he's my personal friend. Well, he did that with everything. But the one thing that is clear, there's no connection whatsoever that Trump was a party to anything. Bill Clinton, that's a horse of a different color. And you got to wonder who is really being protected.
I have another question, Bill. Do you think that maybe they're delaying action because they're holding it back till it's closer to the midterms? Do they think that if they make all these announcements closer to the midterms, it will make the left look terrible, and they'll crush them at the midterms? Do you think it's political?
Well, it could be, but, think about a dam holding back water, and you can hold it back for so long. Think about, I think there was a case in one of the rivers up in Pittsburgh many years ago where
Altoona.
Somebody...
Johnstown, the Johnstown flood. Yeah.
Didn't pay attention to it, and all of a sudden, boom.
Yep.
And that's what could happen here, and then all bets are off.
Yeah.
You might want to trickle out some of that water and get the pressure off until you get what you're getting to and getting at.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we got a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can delay it too long. You can lose your audience. You can lose your supporters. You can get people saying, they're full of BS.
Well, the other thing, okay, here's a prime example. Trump has a way about him. He gives a nickname to everybody, but he has a message, and he didn't have baggage. Who paid attention to that? Gavin Newsom. Burn Cali, burn Gavin, baby, is sitting there going, I mean, he's got the highest tax rate. You got the highest unemployment rate, the highest debt rate of any state in the. He is not suited to run for president. His numbers are low. Well, not anymore, because what he's done, he's giving nicknames to everybody, and he's keeping his name in the news, and people are forgetting about his negative past. All they're hearing is Gavin, Gavin, Gavin. Got to shut up about Gavin, but he's out there, and now he's trending to where among Democrats, he's looking like a front runner. And you got to think there are people crossed over that are superficial, when it comes to news. So you got to watch out for crap like this.
Yeah, you got to start lowering the hammer. You really do. I mean,
you really got to lower the boom.
Yeah, enough is enough. You've got all the facts that you need. But see, This is how
you won't lose me, but I'm going to be disappointed because I'm going to go, you could have, and that's the case of Republicans. Could have, should have, would have, but I didn't. And
you're absolutely, it's part of the narrative.
Should have, would have.
Yes,
it's the could have, should have, would have party. The Democrats, right or wrong, they are lockstep together, marching down
100%
the aisle. And so, I'm sorry, hoorah for the Democrats because they march together. They'll march their whole party right off the cliff, but they know better than that, I would hope. Well, no, actually, I don't hope. But either way, we're the coulda, shoulda, woulda. Well, if only. Get off the horse. Who are you protecting that coulda, shoulda, woulda? Or, I don't want to be perceived as a bad guy. You were already perceived you're a Republican. You're a MAGA. You're a bad person. So,
one of the things Joy Reid talked about was, how come I don't get any information on what happened in Butler? She's right about that. She's right. Mm-hmm. Even people who are on the president's side would like to see more facts about Butler. What's the big secret? Now, I know he was shot because they taught. First of all, exactly. I saw him get shot. I saw the blood on his head. And also, I heard the report from the Butler emergency room physician who said, no, he was shot. He came in here with a bullet wound to his ear. All right? Now, the fact that it didn't blow his whole ear off, that was luck. But he got nicked. And you may say, well, that's not a big deal. He got nicked. That nick was a silly, maybe half inch from blowing off the right rear quadrant of his brain. Okay?
Had he not turned his head?
Yes.
And see, the argument that they have is the blowback of blood.
Yep.
But if you watch the video, he's turned his head and he's talking, pop, pop. His hand goes up, cups his ear, and then he brings his hand down, which swishes forward. That would do the blood swipe on the hand because the ear will bleed if you've ever gotten cut there or something like that.
Oh,
and up at the top where the cartilage is, it'll bleed.
Yep.
And he looked at it and saw the blood in his hand, and he went down. Now, he didn't drop, but he knew that he was being shot at.
Yes.
He ducked. Self-preservation. So the evidence there is he was shot. Seriously shot? No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Corey Comparator was killed right behind him.
Mm-hmm. That shot hit. He didn't have a chance to duck or get because he was full on. They got him, and probably he actually took a bullet for Trump.
It might have been the same bullet that nicked Trump's ear, for all we know.
Yeah,
Bill.
So that argument is nil. Now, we don't know a lot about the shooter. There's the audio that we have. We don't know anything. And we also know that detail there was very loosey-goosey, and it seems almost like a Kennedy plot.
Well, here's what I think, okay? I know, as a matter of fact, that there are many, many, many secrets that the president is privy to that we'll never know, that we're not told, all right? What we don't know is there a much larger conspiracy, and is it ongoing? Meaning, okay, we didn't get him in Butler. Well, they're going to try again. Oh, we didn't get him at the golf course. Okay, we'll set up another. Is there an organization somewhere in this world whose job it is to take out our president? And if we were to give this information that we have out to the press, would we be showing our cards to them? So maybe the best thing is to trust that they have it handled,
Well, there's a deep state. I'll just say that. And, there might be a government within our government. So, in other words, we have the superficial government that we all know, but the real movers and shakers, they're not elected. We don't know who they are or where they are, but they're the movers and shakers. And they do all of this. And there could be, because we know we got CIA ops, EIEIO.
Yes.
But either way, we've got those ops, and there's probably people that we don't know about that have certain jobs. And if we expose that, then do we become vulnerable, criminally vulnerable, that now the blood stains are on our hand to coercing the direction of other countries and taking out maybe people throughout history, that we would be guilty of as a nation that could just totally bankrupt us.
They forget that after we bombed Iran, the mullahs issued a fatwa against the president, ongoing. Essentially, they put out a hit on President Trump. It didn't go away, by the way. It hasn't been withdrawn. It's still out there. So maybe the thought in the Secret Service and the people who are charged with protecting our president, maybe the thought is we don't talk about assassination attempts, what we know, or how we protect the president. We just don't do it because anything we talk, anything we say might give the enemy, the attacker, something, a better chance at overcoming the protection and killing our president. So, maybe there's a good reason why they haven't sat down on television and explained Butler, in detail. Maybe they know there are more than one shooter. Maybe they know he was part of a group. Maybe they know that Thomas Matthew Crooks was a pawn.
Well, I have ideas on him, and we won't know about him. But there's a thing called plausible deniability. And perhaps with other cases known and not known, if we go too far forward with this, we lose all our plausible deniability on a lot of issues. And that's what I was trying to say earlier. We could compromise ourselves.
I think that I don't know whether we're talking about the same thing here. I think that the people who are charged with protecting him, their belief is you keep everything you know about the assassination private, everything, good and bad, everything. You don't give out any detail that you have on the attackers because that lets future attackers know how much we can retrieve on them. All
right. Well, let's take a look at two things here. You remember what Matthew Crooks said? That he hates Trump, he hates Republicans, and all of this stuff. Well, okay, go ahead, and then I'll take it back to where I want to go.
Okay.
My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans, I hate Trump, and guess what? You got the wrong guy.
Okay. Now, we know one thing. They destroyed his body. We didn't get to autopsy it. But remember what he just said there. Now, remember the kid here just about a week ago with the killed all the kids at the Catholic school.
Yeah,
opening
Western.
Up school goes in.
Yeah.
All right. Now, he was a transgender, transing over. And they use for these people, and now you can link all these past shootings, all transgender people, all getting the same
medication,
drug that's been given to them that's mind-altering.
It is.
And they've all done that. I'm just curious, we don't know anything about Matthew Crooks.
Nothing.
Was he undergoing any kind of treatment?
Well, I'll tell you on the surface, just looking at him, he had a look. He could have been. He could have been.
He basically had his manifesto there, which is pretty much the same as this other clown.
Right.
So
they all have a manifesto, by the way, Bill. It's like part of the rule book.
Yeah. So they've got that, and I'm just sitting there going, there's something here. There's a piece of the puzzle here that we're missing. Now, we don't have any.
The other thing is they're all like 20, 22-year-old kids with AR-15s. They all have assault rifles.
Mm-hmm. And, I read about maturing ages. You think you're an adult at 18. Well, you're an adult, but you really don't. Guys, even up to 25 or 26, women can agree with this. We're really still kind of immature. We don't hit a maturity level until 25 to 30. Women might hit it a little bit younger, but even for women, it's older. So you're at a time when you can be manipulated.
Yep.
And
through this kid said, the shooter in Minneapolis said that he regretted going through the transition, and he wished he hadn't done it. This is in his manifesto, and the only thing he was keeping as a remnant of that whole transition was his longer hair. He literally said he wished he hadn't become trans in his manifesto. So there was a lot of confusion in this kid's mind.
Your mind is developing from the day you're born all the way up to you hit the peak of maturity. And in that time, I'm not going to it could be normal to sit there and question a lot of things about yourself. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Why am I a man, not a woman? Whatever it is, you could question all of that. And that's where a player of, some weird twisted agenda can come in and take advantage of that for whatever reason.
Let's pause, take a moment to think about this. Like and share the show if you would. Like and share our program. Also, if you want to contact us, it's mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. Thomas Matthew Crooks, he said you got the wrong guy at the very end of his statement, which, by the way, Bill, I have not heard that audio anywhere else in the news other than here.
If you recall, I found it, and then we went out and grabbed it, and I said, because you're not going to find it anywhere. It was going away, and we were able to track it on the internet at that point, and it's been wiped. And that should tell you something right there.
Yep.
The fact that something is on the internet can be taken away means that somebody has control. And the internet was started as a government
it was called
experiment.
ARPANET, and it was owned by the CIA or the, Defense Department or somebody, or DEA or somebody.
There's a lot of rumors about it. Al Gore had nothing to do with it. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
Although his mind is fried, probably from drugs when he was young. I don't know. I'm just saying that jokingly, not accusing.
Well, I think that we're not going to get much more information on any of the assassinations. I mean, heck, we still have a lot of questions about the Lincoln assassination. They were pulling things even back then. They had his autopsy was held not in a hospital in D.C., Lincoln's.
Mm-hmm.
They literally had his autopsy on a remember the Merrimack and the Monitor? They were like the precursor to the submarine. It was held on one of those things on a Union submarine or whatever they call it, low ship, and in the Potomac. And for some God knows, I have no reason, I don't know why. They had hospitals back then, folks, but they were doing it in a very secure, very closed environment. They had one photographer there to take pictures. One.
Amazing.
And suddenly, not long after, they lost all of his pictures. So that one photographer was useless. They had one photographer. They lost all the pictures of that assassination post-mortem. Unbelievable. Anyway, other things in the news. We got other things to talk about. We had our military took out a speedboat filled with drugs coming out of Venezuela.
They hit it twice, didn't they?
Yeah, with 11 criminals on it. And, this is our media right now, folks. If you want to know what side they're on, look at the media, the left-leaning media. They immediately go to the side of the criminal.
Why?
Why did we take out that speedboat? What authority did we have to take out that speedboat? As a matter of fact, one reporter during an impromptu press conference at an airport cornered J.D. Vance. Listen.
On the Venezuela vessel strike, what legal authority were you guys working under, and will there be an after report on the strike?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be an after report. I mean, the legal authority, and I want to talk about these kids, is that there are people who are bringing literal terrorists who are bringing deadly drugs into our country, and the President of the United States ran on a promise of stopping this poison from coming into our country.
Let me tell you something. If the media were around during World War II like they are today, if these ridiculous reporters who really and truly have nothing between their ears, the questions they ask are so stupid. I'm sorry. What jurisdiction did you have to, what authority did you have to take out that speedboat? If somebody was traveling to your house with the intent on harming your family, would you have the authority to stop them? That is essentially the authority we had. They were coming to our house with drugs that could have killed not one person or two people, but maybe a city full of people with the poison. If it was all fentanyl on that ship that they took out, they may have saved a state population. You know, I mean, that stuff, you don't need much to kill somebody. I think a few grains of the stuff on the point of a pencil will do. And I just find it amazing, Bill. The left-leaning media has to jump at President Trump, at his administration, for doing what is so obviously right. You know, and by the way, they are not promising that they're going to stop. Marco Rubio was down in Mexico talking about the action that they took against that Venezuelan speedboat.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
You know, it's amazing. Rubio is pulling no punches. He's telling it like it is. He goes down to Mexico, and he doesn't equivocate. He doesn't vacillate. He tells it like it is. It's going to happen again.
Should.
Yeah. And, it's funny. Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, she initially was, we won't have any American troops in this country. They won't invade our country. Now she's kind of on our side, Now she's starting to realize maybe it's a good thing if we were to clear these cartels out of her country. It might give her government more power because right now they're corrupted by these cartels. Mm-hmm. So it will be interesting. I think that you're going to see we didn't send down 4,000 Marines and a battle group down to Venezuela just to show off our nice boats. I think that we're there for a reason, Bill.
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be attacks on the ships or elsewhere, maybe even in the United States. They're Venezuela's. That is their economy. That's what they're built on now. They talk about an evil empire with a drug lord at the top of it. We've declared war on them.
I heard Maduro's not sleeping in the same spot 2 days in a row.
Would you?
No, I wouldn't.
If you were Maduro?
Well, he has a $50 million bounty on his head from, I believe, the United States. I think we said, look at you. You give us Maduro, and we'll give you
the money.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it makes it kind of worthwhile.
So we got the money, honey. Give us his head. Yeah, I know. I get it.
Other big story in the news was Chicago, of course. A lot of talk about whether President Trump is sending troops into Chicago to straighten out the crime situation. And Bill, President Trump said no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're sending troops in. Yeah. He said, we're sending them in. Not going to tell you when, but they're going in. And he said it like that. And so, I don't know. The former chief of police in Chicago, he's on the side of the president. Listen.
Yeah. Let's look at the numbers, because to me, if you don't want the Fed help, then you must be happy with the numbers you have in crime. And we all know the only acceptable number for murder would be 0. But you just quoted some numbers. Think about that. In a Labor Day weekend, 54 people shot, 7 killed. And let's look at the year-to-date numbers. Do you realize that every 19 hours and 58 minutes, someone is murdered in Chicago? Every 4 hours and 19 minutes, someone is shot. And the sad part, you ask yourself, who's shooting who? Who's killing each other? 78% of the victims are black. 81% of the offenders are black. So you've got black and black crime. And yet The governor and the mayor say they don't want any help. So to me, when you refuse help, you're saying you're happy with the numbers. And that is absolutely unacceptable in Chicago right now.
Jody Weiss is a former chief of police in Chicago. He said when it comes to Trump cracking down on crime in Chicago, what the Democrats really fear is that it would work. And I think he's right. He went on to say,
If you think about it, the number one responsibility of government is to protect the people. And I see J.B. Prisker walking the late 6 o'clock in the morning saying, there's no crime here. It's beautiful. Well, it's 6 o'clock in the morning along the lake. I live pretty close to that area. There is no crime. Let him walk in the Austin neighborhood or the Inglewood neighborhoods at 11 o'clock because that's where many of his constituents live, and they're not going to feel safe.
That's the former chief of police of Chicago. I think he might know.
Election is next week for mayors on the 12th.
They're trying to supposedly get in New York. There's a rumor going around that the Trump administration has said to Eric Adams, step out of the race. We'll give you a position in government, a good position in government.
Because I think, it's going to be a Democrat that wins. So even though Cuomo is gone independent, he's basically still a Democrat, but probably one we can work with. And, that 9% that Adams has would probably help Cuomo get closer to the mark. Mandani, though, he's sitting at 42% right now. And that's going to be a scary issue there. But, I think all bets are off if he gets in.
As long as you allow the illegals to vote, and they are going to in New York, he's going to win. It's simple as that. These people, all they care about is putting someone in office who's going to protect their hide. Keep them in the city. Don't deport them. Make it difficult for ICE to work.
Good Democrats walk lockstep, and if no matter what, you could have crabgrass on the ballot, and they'd vote for it, just because there's a D by the name, and if there's a lot of D by the names, it dilutes the vote. Cuomo, he's going to get what he gets, but he's not going to get the diehard core Democrats that really don't care. We got to have a Democrat in there. That's all there is to it. And that's the corruption in the party because
they don't realize this, Bill, but New York's done this before. During the 70s, they went hard left, and the city fell apart. When I worked in New York in the 70s, you walk through Times Square, it was a seedy dump. It was dangerous. They had every other door was some kind of strip joint, no cover, no charge. Come on in. Hey, what are you doing, guy? I'm going to work. Come on. You got a few minutes, no cover. Come on in. This is how it was walking through Times Square. When Giuliani became mayor in the 80s, completely turned it upside down, completely changed it, got rid of all those seedy bars, all those, strip joints, and all of a sudden, Times Square became like a high-end shopping mall. You walk through Times Square, you'd see the Disney store, the Warner Brothers store. You see really nice movie theaters. The whole place.
Stuff, yeah.
It was a destination that people wanted to go to. I got to see Times Square in New York. When I was there, you got to get the hell out of Times Square if you want to live. It was not a happy place to be. And it's going to be that way again, by the way, with Mandani. Mandani is going to bring the city to its knees. You watch. And will they fix it someday? Maybe, yes. But will it be too late? Possibly. You're going to lose a lot of business, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to see property values go down. You'll see buildings go in ill repair real quick. Grocery chains will pull the hell out of there because he wants state-run. Investors are probably already trying to unload their properties before this clown gets in, because once he does, and that's next week. I mean, here we are on Thursday. The election is Tuesday. By Tuesday at 6, they'll probably know who's going to be the mayor of New York. And if it's Mandani, you've got a Marxist communist in office in the United States, and that's a bad
And is
move.
that damage repairable? I doubt it.
No.
I think you will lose businesses. See what will happen. A lot of these high-end businesses will pack up their headquarters, and they'll move them out of town, and they'll move them to a place that's safe for business. And once they get comfortable in that new place, even if you fix your city, they're not coming back. They don't have to come back anymore. There was a time in the 80s and the 70s when you had to be in New York because that was the pulse of business. You had to if you wanted to make quick decisions, you did it in New York because that's where it was all happening. But now you can do everything online. You can do everything off-site. Yep. So you don't have to be in New York. You can be in Austin. You can be in Dallas. You can be in El Paso. You can be any number of different places. You don't have to be in New York. So,
don't need it anymore.
Yeah. You have anything you want to add before we wrap this one up?
There's a lot of things to talk about, but, time is of the essence. There's going to be a lot of things going on, I think. Coming into the weekend, I see that there's some things on the horizon that we'll just have to wait and see. Tomorrow's probably going to have a lot of news.
Well, if that's the case, then I think there's only one thing left to do.
This script right here, it's a simple sentence. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one? Or split and divide or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth from your friends Jim and Bill. Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our belief? Are they red, white, and blue? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved. This is CRN America.